Welcome to our Savvy series. I'm Catherine Magana here with Rachel Ivanovich. And today we're going to cover common mistakes women make with their 401ks when they retire. So there's a lot of things that could happen, and we're going to focus first on some tax mistakes. So the first one would be not accounting for taxes on withdrawals. So when you take money out, or if you have a 401k, you have several options. You can leave your 401k with your current provider if the plan allows it. You can take money out of the 401k, or you could move it to an IRA as a rollover. If you take money out of your 401k, then there's tax consequences, and it's definitely something you want to consider.
So I get clients calling the office often saying, I'm leaving my job, what should I do with my 401k?
Yeah.
And so maybe that applies to you, and if this applies to you, please give us a call. We'd love to chat with you. Our number here is 760-692-5700. So clients call the office, they say, hey, I'm leaving my job, what should I do with my 401k? And I say, don't take it out.
Just don't do anything yet.
Don't do anything yet. Let's talk about your individual situation and make sure what makes sense for you. Because when you pull money out of your 401k, oftentimes that can push you into another tax bracket.
And then if you're under 59 and a half, there's also
penalties on
too.
top of it. And it's not just a federal penalty, because most people, they'll call and say, hey, I took money out of my 401k, but I had the taxes taken out. And then I say, okay, tell me about that. So oftentimes what happens is the taxes are only taken out at 10%. And that can get you in big trouble, because if you add that to any other income that you have, then all of a sudden you're in the 22% bracket, you're in the 24% bracket, and if they only took out 10%, then that's not enough.
Yeah.
And then, so like you were saying, the penalties on top of it, if you're under 59 and a half, and if an exception doesn't apply to you, because there are exceptions to the early withdrawal penalty, it's 10% Fed, and different states have different early withdrawal penalties, but in California is 2.5%.
Oh, interesting.
So you definitely want to do your due diligence before you pull that money out. So for instance, you can pull money out. Early withdrawal exceptions are for if you're going to school. Some of that money can be used for that. And it's not for 401ks. So IRAs and 401ks have different exceptions. So you just
want to talk to us.
You need to talk to somebody.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so another tax mistake is ignoring Roth conversion opportunities. So failing to move some of your 401k, potentially maybe move it to a Roth IRA, a part of it, or move it to an IRA and then do a partial Roth conversion. I usually like to look at, because there's a lot more moving parts when you do Roth conversions. It's not just, hey, I want to do this conversion, because once again, that conversion gets added on to your income, and you also owe taxes on that money. So that's definitely something you want to make sure, everybody hears, everyone's like, I want to do the Roth conversion, but the reality is, what is the impact and what's the tax impact, and even if you're moving money from 401ks.
So Roth conversions are great strategies if you have a lower income year. The trouble with that is if you don't have money set aside to cover the taxes that will be due on the conversion, then you can get yourself in trouble. So again, definitely need to talk with an advisor to make sure, okay, what is the tax hit really going to look like? And when you do a Roth conversion, so what that means is, if you have money sitting in a 401k rollover or a traditional IRA, that money hasn't been taxed yet. And so you take a portion of it. You don't have to do all of it. You can take a small amount of it, or you can do all of it, and you convert it into a Roth IRA. An IRA stands for individual retirement arrangement. So in a traditional IRA, later when you pull all the money out, it grows tax deferred when it's in that account, but you have to pay tax on all of it when it comes out later. Whereas a Roth, if you meet certain criteria, when you pull the money out later, you don't pay any tax, and it also grows tax deferred. So people want to put money in Roth IRAs, want to get money in Roth IRAs, but you need to plan for it.
Exactly. Another tax mistake that comes up, and something to think about, is if you are retiring and you have a 401k and you're over the required minimum distribution age, and that's changed. It used to be 70 and a half, and then it went to 72, and now it's 73.
It can be 80
It'll be
someday.
75 down the line, but right now it's age 73. So if you are, so say you work till age 75 or 76, you decided to work a little longer. If you decided to work longer and you're in the retirement plan, and as long as you weren't a 5% owner, then you didn't have to take your required minimum distribution. But then the year that you retire, you actually are subject to take required minimum distributions. And that's something I think that gets overlooked or not really thought about is, when are you retiring? And also if you deferred that, then now going forward, do I have to take those required minimum distributions if you're fully retiring? Or if you are retiring from a company and you're 75 years old and you decide to go back, maybe you're working with another employer and they take rollovers and maybe you can move it to that plan and not take the required minimum distribution.
Definitely need to plan ahead.
Exactly. So there's some planning there too, depending on what age you are, but there's definitely different techniques there. So kind of another topic when it comes to common mistakes that women make with their 401ks when retiring are kind of looking at the investment management mistakes. So one is being too conservative with investments. So sometimes as you're approaching retirement, you might be thinking, I need to be more conservative, I need to preserve, which might be the case for part of it. But once again, it's not just, your 401k money. You have to look at, are there Social Security? Is there pensions? Are there other assets? There's so much more to it. And then you have to look at overall, how is everything allocated and what's the purpose of the money? Do you need income? Are you replacing employment income? So it's important to look at, what's a good allocation, look at your age, factor what's the purpose of the money. But also the other thing to think about is, we've talked about in the past is we're living longer. We're living to 90, 95.
And we have to keep up with inflation.
Exactly.
Things
so
cost more.
The thing is, if you try and keep up with inflation, where historically inflation from 2007 through September of 2024, inflation was at about 2.5%. Now, a couple years ago, we saw inflation at 8%. It's now closer to 2.7, 2.8%. But if you're too conservative, you're not growing your money. You're really not keeping up with inflation.
You're going to run out of money.
Exactly. Another item is not rebalancing your portfolio. So obviously the market's investments change over time, and just making sure that you're rebalancing and getting back to some of your target allocations is important to look at, or if there's a shift in your kind of income or retirement needs. And then another one is looking at your fees. So internally, how was your money invested? Are there any fees that are tied to the investments? For us, we do work with our clients. We do advisory fees that tie into investments in financial planning and tax planning. But aside from that, you also have to look at, are there investments that, how are fees coming out of some of your investments? And then another item that comes up is having too much company stock.
I have a lot of clients that work for companies that pay a lot in stock, and then they wonder, what should I do with that?
And sometimes that's how the 401k matches.
Diversify? Yeah,
they get paid and match with the company stock.
But that can be a costly investment mistake.
Yeah. So it's definitely looking at, or how much exposure do you have to company stock? And yes, you believe in the company and you want to continue, but maybe you can diversify a little bit and take a little bit off the table.
But you need to plan for taxes if you are going to be selling some of that. Well, I guess it's in a 401k.
Yeah.
So,
but if it's not in a 401k,
if it's in ESPPs, which is a whole other podcast, but definitely want to look at the taxes.
And then just some other types of mistakes we want to kind of address and bring up are, one, if you're cashing out your entire 401k, kind of similar to what we talked about at the beginning, be very, very careful.
Be careful.
Yeah,
plan with your advisors ahead of time.
Yeah,
and maybe you're cashing out a portion in 1 year, and then, we're coming up on the end of the year right now, but so maybe you're taking, half of it out. And if you really need the cash, take part of it out in 1 year, and then to take part of it out in the next year to spread the taxes out.
And then perhaps sometimes what happens is with 401ks, or you're thinking maybe, okay, I'm going to retire, or if you're changing jobs, or or if you are retiring, leaving it there may not be the best option. You are limited on some of the investment options you have, and so just making sure, once again, what's the purpose of the money? How is it invested? Does it make sense to make any changes? And so really comparing your different options that you have for rollovers.
And we've had a lot of clients come in lately who have just wanted to simplify.
Yeah.
They have accounts, multiple 401ks from different jobs they've had, and some of them even have discovered pensions and or 401ks that they didn't even know about when they did the exercise. And so it's challenging to manage investments and track performance if you have accounts across very different platforms.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard part too. Is like if you've changed jobs and then maybe you get a statement once a year, you forget about it. I think really having, consolidating, organizing, and once again, how
It's
is
a great
everything,
exercise.
how is everything invested, and being really purposeful on that. So yes, that's definitely something we look at when we do financial and retirement plans. So we covered a lot today. Once again, would love to offer a complimentary strategy session or phone call. You can reach us at 760-692-5700. And we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us today. And thank you for getting savvy about your finances. And remember to savvy up. Please stay tuned for important regulatory disclosures.
Savvy Women Wealth Management is an SEC registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry and how we may be able to assist. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. As always, please remember investing involves risk and possible loss of principal capital. Tax considerations presented may not be appropriate for every individual circumstance. A tax professional should be consulted before making any decisions about your tax liability.